Hi guys, this is Billy No Mates with episode 2 of hashtag Let's Get Awkward. And today we are going to get awkward by talking about trans jokes. Are they harmless or harmful? We all love a good joke. I love watching Jeff Dunham, Nina Conte, Russell Howard, Wanda Sykes, a little bit of Chris Rock. He yells too much for my liking. But I do like many others. I mean, one of my favourites at the moment is John Oliver with Last Week Tonight, and then there's The Last Leg with Adam Hills, Alex Brooker, and Josh, can't remember his last name, he's going to hate me if he ever finds this, Josh Whitaker. There. So if he ever does find this recording and sees I forgot his name, he knows I remembered his name now. But in comedy, there's always a question, where is the line, and do you cross it? One joke that got me hard was, what I saw on the internet on a Facebook page was, if a man claiming to be a trans woman goes into the bathroom with my daughter in it, I will self-identify as a tooth fairy and knock his teeth out. So, I hate this joke, really. It devalues, it's just the man, the father or the parent, it doesn't say if it's a man or woman, says that if a trans woman goes into a bathroom, it doesn't matter, they're going to knock his teeth out. And you can tell this is transphobic because if the woman, if the transgender woman is a transgender woman, you will not refer to the woman as he. And that is a clear indication that the person telling this joke does not accept a transgender of any sort. Otherwise, they will refer to her as a she and not a he. But it does give the essence of they don't trust them. And this could be related to the 2018 campaigns where bathroom bills are being introduced in America and transphobics decided to put out videos stating that if they passed this bathroom bill, it would allow men to enter a woman's bathroom claiming to be a woman and sexually assault them. I mean, that's how the video actually went. But instead of being a woman, it was a little girl. And they used the term sex offender would be allowed to. But that's not what the legislation meant. The legislation was designed for transgenders who identify, the gender that they weren't assigned to as birth. So I'm transgender man, I use the men's room. And thankfully, I've not really had an issue. I've had one issue, and that was it. It hasn't happened again, thankfully. And it doesn't really give you the person the right. Sexual assault or any assault is still illegal. There is no loophole in the legislation to say that they can do this. It doesn't mean if a cisgender man walks into a man's bathroom and assaulted a man, or a woman assaulted a woman in the women's bathroom, they will still be charged for it. There will be no, are you transgender? Oh, okay, you can get off with it. No, it's never going to happen in a million years. It is still going to be illegal to assault someone. No loophole, nothing. I have seen more transgender jokes online, really just being shared by people I know. I'm not mentioning any names, but it was hard to see that they were putting this on their Facebook page. And when I did try and point out that I was a transgender man, and this is going to have a negative impact, some people compared me to the Little Britain's I'm a Lady sketch. Never compare me to that, please, because that was just a dumb actor trying to stir shit and move focus to something that needs to be looked at. I mean, even Matt Lucas himself, who was part of the sketch, he played another I'm a Lady. He said that he's evolved from this and feels the sketch can no longer be done. Back in the day, this was the time when jokes like this were made. But this was the early 2000s. Little Britain came out like in 2005. It wasn't like, back in the 70s, the 80s, the 60s, the 50s. No, this was literally this was like 15 years ago. So calling it, that was the time. Yeah. racism really wasn't a fun thing either, because we'll look at Little Britain. The episode was full of racism, as I said. There was a lot of blackface where they dressed up as minstrels, or there was another one where David Williams played a female role, and he was in a fat suit and just blacked up, and it looked horrifying. It just looked really, really weird. And then he played another character of an elderly woman who she was happy and chirpy, and then she'd like a cake or a biscuit would be offered to her, and she'd take a bite, chew it, say how great it is, wonderfully tasty. But then she's told that it was made by such and such who isn't white, they're Indian or they're African or they're Asian, and she would end up spewing all the food out. And that was just, ugh, I don't care if it was a racism thing or not, the spewing thing was just disgusting. There was another part where they were mocking disabled people with another character who was in a wheelchair, and he seems to, he's bound, he can't walk or anything. And then he'd be pushed by his carer, and the carer would need something, so he'd stop, go to a person and ask for help. And while he's doing that, Matt Lucas would jump out the wheelchair and do something like jump off a diving board, play an arcade game, just do something that you wouldn't think he'd be able to do. Then there was mocking mental health, which hit me hard, where David Williams would play a woman, I think she was called Annie or something, and she wasn't word vocal communication, she'd just go and just do silly things like wipe paint on someone's face, mess things about, and the doctor's like, oh, it's just her mental health. And then this phone would ring when the doctor was away, and he'd pick the phone up and he'd talk properly in full sentences. It's like, oh yeah, I'd love to do tonight, but I've got something, and then end the call. The visitor's like, what the fuck? And he'd go back to being the So it kind of painted a wrong image in my mind of mental health, racism, what's allowed, what behaviour is allowed in general. But going back to jokes, another joke is I made fun of a trans and my mum told me off saying don't make fun of the mentally ill. Okay, I'm just going to scream into my pillow until July because that one's messed up. It's really self-explanatory, given the idea that someone who identifies as transgender is mentally ill. We're confused, we just need fixing, and it's bad enough that there is conversion therapy available for this. So that actually feeds into the idea that something is wrong and it needs to be fixed. And then you've got other people going, well, we've got the conversion therapies, let's make them in something they're not. If you actually want to look up about conversion therapy, there was a documentary done in 2014. It was Dr. Christian Asks, Cure Me, I'm Gay. This came out, I know it's like 6 years old, but I do remember watching this when it came out, and it was a very deep look into the motives and practices behind the therapists that offer to change people's sexuality. He asked if it was possible to cure it and undertook some of the cures himself, and it was absolutely horrendous. He was locked in a room, barely any light, with all these sounds going, and it was just, he ended up throwing up all over the place. It was really bad. But he looked at the past and the present of therapies in the UK and the USA that offered a cure to gay people. He looks at patients who were uncomfortable with the sexual orientation and desperate for a change, and he seeks to find out what was offered to people, in terms of cures. He also explored himself with using his background because he himself was gay. So the question was, for at the end of the documentary, after weeks of intense therapy, will Dr. Christian be cured, and will the ex-gay leaders rise to the challenge to take the sexuality lie detector test? This was actually a great documentary, as I said. It wasn't just the UK and America, it was also parts of Africa, who were looking into conversion therapy and trying to cure the gayness. But there also are transgenders who people try to put them through conversion therapy. And if you look at the documentary, if that's how bad it is for gay conversion therapy, how awful will it be for transgenders? Because it's just frightening how another person, someone who's meant to be a medical doctor, who took an oath to do no harm, literally does harm to a person because society deems it necessary. That just doesn't fly with me ever. So we will get back to jokes. And when I look at jokes and I try and make a joke, if you tag specific on a group, then it is time to step back and think, is it going to be offensive? Who will get it? Will people find it funny? Or will it really, cause offence? I think what people seem to forget is jokes do influence our behaviour. I was surrounded by blonde jokes growing up from an early age, and it gave me the idea that blondes were stupid. And then I grew up and I questioned it and thought, maybe blondes aren't dumb. But I have actually met blondes, and I feel that they've been raised around these jokes, being told that you're stupid, you can't do this, you can't do that, and that's what they did. They became that. They they acted stupid. They didn't try to put any effort in the work. I was at college with a blonde, and she just acted dotty. Never did the hard work, and always copied everything from the internet. So I'm actually really surprised that they got away with it, because there was loads of ways you could tell that they didn't write the work that you saw, because they couldn't pronounce the word, half the words that were on it. I mean, it looked like it was created by someone with a PhD, because even I didn't know the words. It was a lot of Latin. But they got away with it. It was really sad, because I tried to tell them that if they're putting the effort into it, if they really wanted to do this, then they should put the effort in. Fortunately, there was like, well, I'm going to go do hairdressing. No. If you're not going to put the effort into one subject, why are you going to put it into hairdressing when there is a lot of thought going into hairdressing as well? My sister trained as a hairdresser, and she had to put a lot of effort into it. I thought hairdressing was easy. It wasn't. She explained to me like dye jobs, chemicals that you have for doing dye jobs. Then there's health and safety, scissors, sharp objects, cleaning, hygiene. So I really did see this lass who, if she couldn't look up legislation for care work, why would she look up legislation for health and safety in general? She wouldn't. So this observation actually does point out on who's listening, because on one part of the blonde joke, it was one side believes that blondes are dumb, and then the other side where the blondes actually think they are dumb. I do feel like we need to look at how we present others in jokes and what we are trying to say about them, because, as I pointed out, it did hurt. I feel maybe what we could take from this is that jokes are like the media, the stories you read, the movies you watch. It can plant ideas into your head to say that blondes are stupid, LGBT are pedophiles. We're not actually. We really are not. And Asians are smart. I mean, there was The Good Place, that's on Netflix. The person who played Jason Mendoza, he was happy to have a role where, the Asian is stupid, because he was sick and tired of seeing Asians put up as geniuses. But it's because the idea was planted in our heads by media, by TV shows and movies, that we believe this to be true. And it can be hard. I mean, autistic people are portrayed as geniuses, mostly male, and that they could do massive sums without calculators, or they could say pi in 1,000 places. I cannot do that. I can just get to 3.14, and then it's gone. I cannot name a pi name pie in 1,000 places. I can name a lot of pies, food-wise. I can do that, but I am shit at maths. I'm not so great with grammar. I think the only thing they get right is the social skills. I I do not have the social skills. Even talking to a microphone is difficult for me because numbers are showing me speaking and it's going 15 minutes, 27 point whatever seconds, and it's just going on, and it's really distracting me. But yes, I do have a form of autism. I have Asperger's syndrome. And I think we're getting away from the point. But the point is, if the media can come up with this idea and write jokes about other people, cultures, then we may believe it because it's planted in their side in our subconscious, and it takes a lot to conquer that. I could use a quote that I saw online. It said, "Don't talk about transgenders till you actually speak to a transgender." So let's alter it a bit to don't joke about insert subject, minority group, culture, country, etc. till you actually speak to a insert subject, minority group, culture, country, etc. What it's trying to say is don't talk about something until you actually speak to a person related to it. To be honest though, this does need to be discussed. It does need to be looked at as well. We need to find a ground where we can say, this joke, I don't find it funny, it shouldn't be happening. And we also need to give, instead of actually getting angry and irritated and flying off the handle sometimes, maybe we could try and sit them down and go, do you know what, this shouldn't be done, and see if it actually does take notice. Unfortunately for me, when I've actually pointed this out, it's always led to arguments, people having a go at me. I mean, one family even said that, even compared minority groups, transgender is actually a recognised minority group, but it's like, oh, well, they're not black people, are they? And I'm like, well, no. And they're not Jews from the Holocaust, no, but no. He just literally had a go at me about this, and I was like, look, if you look at any culture, any sort of people, there are always going to be transgenders in them. So technically, transgenders do go through hell, and laughing about it with offensive jokes are not going to solve them. I think the only way I can end this is to say that when it comes to jokes in general, we do need to think, how is it going to affect people? And if people do take offence, if it's a friend, then simply explain, you don't understand it would be offensive, and ask what they found offended by it, and you've hurt their feelings, apologise for it. Yes, it is hard to admit when you've made a mistake. Even I find it hard to. But being as a parent, I have to see, am I setting a good example for my daughter? Do I really want to influence her with something negative by not owning up to my mistakes? And do I really want my daughter to listen to the type of jokes that make fun of me or other people or any minority group? And the answer is no. My daughter is slowly learning about racism when I point out, we look different to her friend who is not white. And I told her, well, some people don't like it, some people hate it. And she was like, well, I don't like them. And I like my friend more. All I can ask, though, is that as I keep on repeating, think about the jokes, think who's it going to offend, what's it about, what we're looking at, what is it actually implying about said group, person, etc. And see, maybe, maybe this isn't the joke that should be heard. Think about it against, like, Cards Against Humanity. Think about that one joke you did that got the whole room laughing its head off behind closed doors. Yeah, precisely. Don't. I mean, for the first when I first heard of this game and someone brought it round, and I read all the things, I was like, holy this should not be read out loud. This should not be in a public place. So, sorry, I'm thinking about Cards Against Humanity now, because there is a Cards Against Muggles that I am thinking about buying, but I can't afford it. And there's also Cards Against Trump, which I really, 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 really want, but I can't afford that either. But social media, think about how you present yourself, what jokes you have up there. Is it going to hurt people? It may not. It might actually hurt someone you didn't realise it. I've had people, I've had to block on Facebook because of their inappropriate jokes and the fact that when I spoke my mind, they were not willing to listen. They would rather have a go at me and be cruel. So I've had to block them. One or two are family members, but that's life for me. There are some jokes online actually by trans people. If you go on to www.them.us and look up jokes about being trans by actual trans people, there are actually some funny jokes written by trans people. And was trying to see if we can find one. When I was in Vancouver, we saw a road called the Trans-Canada Expressway, and I said, "What? Was it assigned USA at birth?" It was... I'll find this one. How many trans people does it take to change a light bulb? Just one, but people will always ask you if your light bulb's had, the change. I think that's actually a really good one. I'll find you a better one. I, a trans lesbian married a bisexual. Does this make us a BLT? I actually do like that one. Trying to find one. Yeah, this is actually a better one. It said this has changed a bit. It was, how many transgenders people does it take to change a light bulb? One, but they have to live in the dark for 2 years to make sure they want it changed, and then get the opinions of 2 electricians to make sure it needs changing. I think this one's my best by transgender. When I was crowdfunding for my top surgery, I announced it by saying, I need to get something off my chest. Sorry, I got dry throat. All this happens when I need to talk a lot. So, there are good transgender jokes out there for the light side of this podcast. But as I said, maybe it's just one of those things where if you're transgender, jokes are okay. You can do the jokes. I mean, it's like I have a black friend, but I would never try and do a black joke for him. There are certain things I would not do because he would have my ass kicked severely just for doing it. I hope you do enjoy this podcast for hashtag Let's Get Awkward. As I said, this is just... Sorry, I've got a really bad cough today. I am still building this up, and hopefully we're going to be covering more subjects. Once again, if you want to learn more about transgenders, non-binary, go to mermaidsuk.org.uk. And once again, the side note is we are not being sponsored by them. I just love mermaids, especially the Little Mermaid movie, the live action one that had Shaggy in it. Oh, that was so good. But yeah, I love mermaids, and mermaids hopefully do love me. So my name is Billy No Mates, and happy Sunday, stay safe, wash your hands, and please do not hog toilet paper. You don't need that much. You think you do, you don't. Don't hog it. And I'll see you hopefully all next week. See ya.